Let's talk about how to gently push, not pressure your picky eater. Well, first of all, I want to let you know that in the journal Appetite, just last year, there was a brand new study that came out, quite a good one, in fact, that was highlighted on CNN.com. And I'll post that article in the comments here shortly, that really talked about what do we accomplish if we do pressure our child to take another bite? Just eat a few more bites. Oh, just eat that for me. That kind of gentle pressure, but it still implies that they're not taking a bite because they're interested in taking a bite, but instead they're doing it for someone else. And that's what we mean by pressure. When we pressure our children to take another bite, really what that research showed in essence is that the only thing it does is help us feel better as parents. It doesn't help the child. It doesn't help a child who's underweight gain more weight. It doesn't really do much of anything. It doesn't benefit the child at all. All it does is make us feel better because we got those few extra bites into our kid. So we don't want to do it for that reason. Instead, we want to gently coach our kids along. So all the kids that I work with, those kids know me as Coach Mel. And I tell them, hey, you know what? I'm your food coach. I'm here to help you learn about new foods. We're going to cook together. We're definitely going to eat a lot of new foods together. So I tell them right up front, that's our goal. But we're also going to make some asparagus houses. We're going to make some beet tattoos. We're going to do food crafts. We might go to the store together. We might wash off some things out of the garden together, because it always starts with exploration. So for the parents who are listening tonight, what I want you to know is that you can gently push your child to learn more about food without applying pressure by following the 3 E's that I often talk about: expose, explore, expand. Expose means things like washing the beets, helping to chop them up with child-safe knives. Your older kids, really getting in the kitchen, getting them involved in cooking, farmers markets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That exposure and exploration is what's going to help you expand to eventually eating more foods. But here's the most important thing you want to think about. If you're wondering, well, when is it even okay to push? Just gentle pushing that we all do to help kids get better at a skill. The piano teacher does it to help a child with an especially challenging piece. The soccer coach does it when you're trying to learn to get that ball in the goal. The softball coach does it when that kid keeps striking out. And how does he help him get to that next step? It's a gentle, gentle push. But here's what they all ask themselves. And here's what I want you to ask yourself about your child. Is this kid capable? Does he have the skill? And that might be why parents want to refer a child for a feeding evaluation. There's no harm in going in and getting a full evaluation if you have concerns about your child, or if you're just stressed about the feeding relationship. We, as professionals, speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, registered dietitians, we all act as a team here. We can help you figure out what's kind of typical picky eating and some strategies around it, and how to gently push so they don't get too deep in that chicken nugget rut. And also what things we might be concerned about, because we have the experienced eyes to look at your child's motor skills, to know what questions to ask about their overall physiology. That's how that child's body functions for eating. We know about their sensory processing system. We know how to tease it all out to determine, is this kid even capable? And if they're not, we know how to build those skills so that once the child gets lots of positive practice as they grow in feeding therapy, then we can gently push and expect them to do a little bit more. So we have to ask ourselves, is the child capable? However, very few children are not capable of having a new food on their plate. And if there's one thing that parents can do to get that kid boost it along in terms of being a learning eater is to put a tiny bit of new food on their plate. Now, if you have a child with extreme sensory challenges, maybe it's a child who's on the autism spectrum, you're already going to know that that might be too much for that particular child. You're going to know, you know what? He's not capable yet. He's not capable yet. Okay. Well, if he's not capable yet, then his feeding therapist is going to get him to a point where you're going to be able to put the foods on his plate. But for most parents who, if we're talking about the garden variety picky eater or the kid who's the selective eater, but visually he can handle new stimuli, then when you put just a small amount on the kiddo's plate, and if he starts to melt down, in other words, ask yourself, is my kid's response to this piece of broccoli on his plate, is that kind of out of proportion to the fact that it's just broccoli on his plate? Probably a big meltdown is absolutely out of proportion to the fact that there's a green bean or, good grief, a little piece of chicken or something like that on his plate. That doesn't mean it isn't hard for that child. And it's probably hard because he hasn't had to deal with that in a really long time. You know why? Because kids who are highly selective eaters or extreme picky eaters, they live for familiarity. They live to stay in their little box of comfort zone. And when we require them to step out of that box just a little tiny bit with a new piece of food on their plate, it's going to get a big reaction. But your response is to stay calm, keep your response concise, and always be consistent. Make sure everybody responds in the same way. And it might be as simple as, yeah, sweetie, you're right. We all have broccoli on our plate tonight. Or, yeah, you know what? I can see this is hard for you. You can do hard things. And then change the subject. I've said it before. You've got to move on. Sometimes the kids are really going to cry because they're kids, you know? They're letting you know, man, this isn't the way we usually do things in our house. That's okay. Try your best not to respond to it and give them some time to just accept the fact that this is their new familiar. This is their new familiar. So if you do have a child with autism, for example, or extreme sensory challenges where this might be exceptionally difficult for them, I'm going to post an article in the comments for you that was the cover story for the ASHA leader in April of 2017. I had the good fortune of writing that article, and it's all about the cooking connection. So it's about bringing kids, even with extreme sensory challenges, into the kitchen and helping them tolerate new sensory experiences around food, including the sight of new food.